And the manager just says, what's going on here? And this woman says, she won't let us sit down. We want to go to sit down. And I said, but Mr. Batten, that was his name, Batten. I said, it's Hitchcock.
Carol Burnett spent a lifetime making America laugh through The Carol Burnett Show. Fans always believed her kindness was limitless, that she never held grudges. But in her 90s, she revealed a truth no one expected. There were men she genuinely hated. Men who humiliated her in public, diminished her in private, and even tried to steal the creations that built her legacy. Who were they? And what pushed a woman known for grace into lifelong resentment? Let's find out, and the answers will shock you. Number 1. Marlon Brando, the legend, who crossed a line Carol never forgave. Let's start with the biggest name on Carol Burnett's blacklist, the one everybody knows. Marlon Brando. Yes. That Brando, the legend, the icon, the man who somehow managed to offend Carol so deeply that she refused to stand in the same room with him for the rest of her life. When people hear this part of her story, they all say the same thing. Wait, Brando? What on earth did he do? Here's what actually happened. And trust me, it's worse than the rumors. It was the summer of 1972, just months after The Godfather had turned Brando into a god among actors. Carol was asleep at home when her housekeeper shook her awake because the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Carol answered, and the first thing she heard was a slow, amused voice. She immediately recognized, "Carol, this is Marlon Brando. I've been watching you." At first, she laughed, thinking someone was doing an impression. Brando loved pranks. Hollywood loved impressions. But then he said something that wiped the smile off her face. "You'd be even better if you loosened up, like the actresses I've spent time with." That wasn't flattery. It was a loaded comment, the kind of thing a powerful man said when he thought he was untouchable. Carol cut the call as gracefully as she could, but she was shaking when she hung up. And the real shock came the next morning. A reporter from The Hollywood Reporter called her publicist, saying Brando had praised Carol's femininity in a late-night conversation. Someone leaked it. Carol was blindsided, and Brando made everything worse. When a journalist asked if the rumor was true, he smirked and said, "She took it too seriously." Comedians are sensitive women. That was the moment Carol realized she wasn't dealing with admiration. She was dealing with a man who treated her like a punchline. She told a friend 2 days later, "I felt small, and I've spent my whole life fighting not to feel small." From that point on, Carol had a standing rule with her PR team. If Brando is attending, I'm not. And she meant it for the next 30 years. Number 2. Cary Grant, the Hollywood gentleman who publicly humiliated her. Cary Grant is the one name people refuse to believe appears on Carol Burnett's hate list. The sophisticated gentleman of Hollywood, the charming icon with the perfect suits and perfect diction. Carol never forgot the night he cut her down in front of the most powerful room in the industry. It happened in 1968 at a Beverly Hilton gala, the kind where everyone pretended to adore everyone else. Carol had just become America's comedic sweetheart. Grant was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award and sitting at the center table like royalty. When the ceremony ended, Carol walked over to congratulate him. She looked radiant, relaxed, and completely unaware of the storm she was about to step into. A director beside Grant tried to start a friendly exchange. He joked, "Cary, you've seen Carol's show, right? She's got the whole country laughing." Grant didn't miss a beat. He smirked and loud enough for several tables to hear, said, "Laughing at what?" waving her arms around, making faces. "I don't understand why people find that appealing." Carol froze. She wasn't thin-skinned. She had been heckled before. But this, a screen legend mocking her craft. Why did he had to do that? She kept her poise. She always did. But as she turned to walk away, Grant leaned towards Elizabeth Taylor and delivered the line that cemented his place on Carol's blacklist forever. "She's not a real actress. She's a housewife who got lucky." That was cruelty dressed up as elegance. Carol didn't argue. She didn't have to. Hollywood talked about that night for months. She later told a close friend, "I didn't hate him for disliking my comedy. I hated that he said it to humiliate me." 2 years later, Paramount wanted Carol to co-star with him in a musical comedy. She refused instantly. Her team insisted it was a career-making opportunity. She said the same 7 words every time the subject came up. "I won't work with a man who belittles women." Grant never apologized, and Carol never softened. Number 3, Lorne Michaels, the power broker who shut Carol out for 50 years. Why did Carol Burnett and Lorne Michaels turn into enemies without ever sharing a stage? The answer isn't pretty, and it definitely isn't professional courtesy. Their conflict grew out of one brutal phrase that Carol heard about him, and she never forgave. The story begins in 1975, the year Saturday Night Live premiered. Carol was still ruling CBS with The Carol Burnett Show, and nearly every critic said the same thing. If anyone deserves to host SNL, it's Carol. That idea never made it to air, not because Carol wasn't interested, and not because of scheduling. The real reason came from a private meeting inside NBC. During a pitch session for season 2, an editor suggested, plain and simple, what about Carol Burnett? She'd be historic. Lorne allegedly leaned back, shook his head, and said the line that spread through NBC like wildfire. Not her. She's the face of old television. Over my dead body. Do you think it was harsh? Absolutely. But he wasn't finished. A staff member later recalled him adding, "Her kind of comedy makes us look outdated." SNL isn't a retirement home. The words reached Carol within days. She didn't explode, didn't confront him, didn't demand a public correction. She simply went quiet, ice-cold quiet. Later, she just told them privately, "I spent my whole life opening doors for women in comedy. He slammed one shut without even meeting me." Over the decades, the feud grew stranger. NBC attempted to include Carol in the 10th anniversary special. Lorne rejected the idea with a handwritten note. Not relevant, not funny, not happening. Carol never saw the note herself, but the story reached her, and that was enough. In 2023, when asked if she regretted never hosting SNL, she smiled and answered, "They didn't need me, and I learned I didn't need them either." That was Carol's version of a final punch, and their relationship was never made. Number 4, Harvey Korman, the trusted partner who broke her heart on set. Harvey Korman stands 4th on Carol Burnett's private list of men she grew to resent. And what's shocking is that he was once the last person anyone expected to hurt her. Audiences adored their chemistry. Hollywood assumed they were as close as 2 performers could possibly be. Carol thought so too, until one afternoon in 1974, when Harvey revealed a bitterness she never saw coming. The explosion happened during a routine rehearsal at Studio 33, the kind of day where nothing unusual should have happened. Petula Clark had just finished her run-through. The lighting crew was adjusting positions, and Harvey was preparing for a comedic sketch he'd done countless times. A minor lighting mistake darkened his mark, and that tiny inconvenience set off something far uglier. Harvey hurled his script to the floor and barked at the crew. "How hard is it to do this right? I'm tired of cleaning up her mistakes." Carol heard every syllable. He wasn't talking about a light. He was talking about her, his friend, his partner, the woman who had given him a platform that made him a household name. The room went silent. Carol didn't look angry, just stunned. She walked toward him with the calmness of someone trying not to break in front of her own team and said softly, "Harvey, why would you speak to them like that?" Harvey didn't back down. His voice rose, sharp and resentful. "Maybe I'm done being second on the Carol Burnett Show." That sentence cut deeper than the shouting. It exposed a jealousy Carol never imagined he harbored. After that, she stepped away, entered her dressing room, and locked the door. She cried quietly inside. 3 days later, Harvey returned with an apology, telling her, "I forgot why I started doing comedy." She accepted it because kindness was in her nature. But she told Vicki Lawrence afterward, forgiving him didn't fix what broke. The show survived, but their friendship didn't. Number 5, Joe Hamilton, the husband who stole her work. Joe Hamilton sits 5th on Carol Burnett's list of the men she could never fully forgive because his betrayal came from inside her own home. The world knew him as her husband, her producer, her partner in building one of television's most beloved shows. Carol eventually learned he was also the man quietly rewriting her legacy without her consent. The drama began in 1982, long after their marriage had started to fray. Carol's lawyer discovered something odd while reviewing paperwork. Joe had registered a new company, Hamilton Productions, and placed under it several spin-off ideas created from sketches on The Carol Burnett Show. One of them, Mama's Family, was based entirely on Carol's signature character, yet she wasn't listed as a co-owner, creator, or contributor. When Carol confronted him in their CBS office, expecting some sort of misunderstanding, Joe didn't deny a thing. He sat back, folded his arms, and said the sentence she later repeated to friends, word for word. "You're the talent, I'm the brain. I know how to handle business." That wasn't just arrogance. It was a confession. He'd been planning to separate his financial future from hers while still using her creations as his property. Carol told Vicki Lawrence afterward, "It felt like he'd taken my heart and stamped a logo on it." But the real blow hadn't arrived yet. Weeks later, Carol overheard two CBS employees whispering in a hallway about Joe's new life with a younger editor he'd been seen dining with at the Showhouse restaurant. It wasn't the infidelity that crushed her. It was realizing it wasn't new. The affair had been going on for years while she was carrying the weight of the show and their family. That night, she went home, sat at her dining table, and told herself the truth out loud. "I don't recognize the man I married." The divorce filing came shortly after. Joe fought aggressively for ownership of Carol's work, insisting he deserved profits from the very show she built from scratch. The court battle dragged for nearly a year, draining her emotionally and professionally. When Joe died in 1991, Carol didn't attend the funeral. She sent white flowers and a note saying, "I wish you peace." But privately, she admitted, "Some wounds don't heal with time. They just settle." Carol Burnett made the world laugh. Yet, these 5 men left her carrying wounds she never showed on camera. After everything you've heard, which betrayal do you think cut her the deepest? If you want more hidden truths from Hollywood's brightest legends, hit like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts below.